Afternoon guys, welcome to Mooch's Ways channel. So my last video guys was about lurchers. So I thought I'd do another quick video. As I said on my last video, I do one on terriers. So these are I have two terriers. I've got a little Jack Russell bitch called Jip. She's quite an age now. She's nearly 13, 14. Yeah, she's been my main little working terrier bitch. I've done everything from her, from rat to fox. I've always lent towards the Jack Russell work-wise. I like the way they work. If you're doing digging, fox digging, normally, I say normally, Jack Russells are more baying type dogs, which means when they're below the ground they'll bark at the fox. So they'll stand sort of, 6 inches away or even closer sometimes, and they'll bark at the fox until you dig down to them. Which is, quite a handy trait in the way that your dog won't get knocked up so much. I know there's a lot of harder breeds of terrier, such as Patterdale, Lakeland, stuff like that, that aren't inclined to bay. So you'll get a dog that are bred to be hard. And they're bred to be hard because of the area that they come from. You will have a lot more rock piles, undiggable places, things of that sort where you need a dog to go in there and kill. Hence the Lakeland and Patterdale. So, which brings me to my next dog. This is Boozer. He's around 5 years old now. He's a cross between Lakeland and Patterdale. Obviously, he is a bit of a strange colour for a Lakeland Patterdale. He's come out black and white. He was the only one in his litter to turn out this colour. His dam was a chocolate Patterdale, and his sire was Lakeland. The reason why he turned out black and white, guys, is because what we got to remember is that Patterdale and Lakeland, both of these types, I want to say types, they're not breeds, they're types. Both of these types of terrier, in their genetic makeup, they actually had either Fox Terrier or Russell Terrier or Parson Russell Terrier in their makeup. So, the Jack Russell or Parson Russell Terrier are in quite a few different terrier breeds, from Patterdale, Lakeland to Plummer. The White Terrier was the basis of quite a few breeds. So, guys, what do we use terriers for? Well, terriers are predominantly for going below ground to take foxes. Used to be badgers and otters. Obviously, otters are a protected species now, same as the badger, so you don't really want to be doing that with your terrier. Due to the 2005 Hunting Act, things have changed slightly. You can only use a terrier, dig to a terrier, to a fox, for the protection of game birds. Anything else, you have to use a soft terrier, i.e. a barking terrier or a baying terrier, to bolt to a gun. So that's, guys, if you're doing for livestock protection, such as chickens and sheep, things of that sort. You have to have a soft terrier, one that won't actually engage the fox, so to speak, that will just bark at it or bay at it, and bolt to a gun. But for the protection of game birds and ground nesting birds, you can dig to a dog. It's preferable that you only use one dog to ground. I know in the old days they used to use more than one, but that's network of hazards. If you use more than one dog, you're going to get... If you use more than one dog, guys, what can happen is the second dog will try and push past the first dog to get to the quarry, and you'll end up getting a dog stuck. It's never a good idea. So, yeah, the way to work a dog terrier legally these days is if you're a gamekeeper or friends with a gamekeeper, A lot of them will be happy for you to dig earths. Depending on where you are in the country, really sort of dictates what type of dog you have. If there's a lot of undiggable places, then a Patterdale or a Lakeland would be ideal. A dog that would more kill to ground rather than a dog you can dig to if it's undiggable is always handy. If they're diggable earths and you don't want I know a lot of Patterdales and Lakelands, they're quite hard dogs, so they tend to, they'll tend to take a bit of punishment from their quarry. Because they don't stand back and bay, they'll tend to go in all guns blazing, so you're going to have a dog that's a little bit more knocked up. And if you've got earths you can dig, it's not always everyone's cup of tea to have a dog. I understand this day and age it's getting harder and harder to, a lot of vets won't patch dogs up and stuff like that, things of that nature, that, dogs that have hard dogs and have been to ground. So what you really want is, or my personal opinion is, I've always liked Russells because Russells have always, for me, been more reliable baying dogs. I know a lot of people nowadays like their hard dogs, and it's more bragging rights than anything else, guys. But a dog that you can put to ground and will bay away, you can dig to that regularly, week in, week out, and you shouldn't have, many issues with, scarring and stuff like that. I know the general public, they don't understand the traits of a working dog. Many terriers now are kept as pets. But if you keep terriers, guys, you don't necessarily have to dig with them. You can do things such as ratting. Excellent ratting dogs. A terrier will always take well to ratting. Personally, I wouldn't use a terrier for ferreting. I know this lad, Boozer, my Lakeland Patterdale, he absolutely will not tolerate ferrets. He'll try and kill any ferret that he comes across. I didn't actually have this lad as a pup, so I never personally got to break him to ferrets, but if I'm really honest, I've never really broken a terrier to ferrets. I've had no need of it myself. I rarely use ferrets whilst ratting anyway. I'll always tend to use a smoker, so that's never really been an issue for me. So yeah, and it's handy if you've got a terrier that will control the odd mink as well, and mink and ferret are quite, they're quite close scent-wise. So, if you're planning to work a terrier on mink, you're going to have a hell of a job breaking them to ferrets. They look similar, they smell similar. But yeah, so Boozer I haven't actually done any earthwork with yet. I have a good friend of mine who's a gamekeeper, so I'm actually going to try Boozer. He was bred from hunt terriers. The thing to remember with terriers is they can be harder to train. You don't have to train them to do the job that they're bred for, because that's all instinct. It depends what you want them for. I know a lot of people struggle with getting terriers back, and certainly this lad, he does tend to go deaf if you sort of work him free. He's a fantastic ratter, but when you start working him free, he tends to go deaf when he's on the scent. Not entirely his fault, and all the best training in the world, your terrier can still go deaf. So, I've had, like this little Jack Russell, I've had her for a number of years now, since she was quite a young pup. I used to try and do a lot of bushing with her, which brings me to my next point, guys. Terriers aren't really suited as bushing dogs. I see a lot of people saying, can I get my terrier to bush? You can and you can't. The instinct for a terrier to go to ground is very, very, very strong. So you always run that risk of when you're bushing, the terrier will drop to ground. And unless you've got a locator and, permission of where you're going, it's very, very hard, because, the public perception nowadays, you can't just dig wherever you want now. What I would recommend, guys, if you want a dog that will hunt the hedgerows for you, is really not a terrier. I would more lean towards a spaniel for that type of work. Terriers, you know, you can get the odd all-round terrier that will bush for you and be quite biddable, but I haven't seen many. You know, not that I would trust 100% bushing. I would always, you know, tend to go for a spaniel or something of that sort of breed, you know, rather than a terrier, because, I mean, this little bitch here was notorious for dropping to ground, because I'd worked her to ground on fox. If I bushed with her, she would always drop to ground. She's been an absolutely fantastic ratting bitch. I mean, when I'm ratting, I can work her free. Absolutely fantastic. Mark, catch rat. You know, even at her grand old age, only a couple of months ago before this lockdown, I'd done some ratting for the keepers. You know, and it was one of them things, because of her age, I was sort of umming and ahhing whether to take her. Because, you know, she's slowing down now because of her age. But she was very keen to go on the day. And she still caught her fair share of rats. You know, she's starting to lose her teeth now. So, she does struggle to kill them a bit. But the heart's still there. So I took her, and she done very well for me. You know, every time I've taken her out, she's done well for me. She's been a fantastic little baying bitch on foxes. Not that I've done foxes week in, week out. That's not, you know, I've never really had that type of work for them. It's sort of been the odd fox. Don't get me wrong, guys, she's had her fair share of foxes over the years. So she's just, you know, I mean, Jack Russells up until recently were a type more than a breed. Now they're Kennel Club registered, you know, they're a recognised breed, but she's what's known as a shorty Russell or a short-legged Jack Russell, however you want to call it. I just class her as a Jack Russell. She stands about 10 inches tall, tri-coloured, brown, black and white. Fantastic little bitch, you know. She's undocked. She was originally a little pet Jack Russell. And I was good friends with the owners. They couldn't keep her on, you know, so I took her on, having previously lost one of my Jack Russells. And, you know, it goes to show that the working gene is strong in them, and I couldn't keep her above ground, so I worked her to ground. You know, and what a fantastic little bitch she's been for me over the years, you know, ratting, foxing. She's never let me down. She's semi-retired now, so I'll only take her out on the odd ratting session. Rightly so, you know, she enjoys her lazy days now. But I've got this young terrier boozer. So yeah, I've got this young terrier to start. To be honest, myself, I'm slowing down with the terriers. I'm more into my running dogs now. Just because I find it harder to work terriers these days, even within the law, you know, there's a lot of bad public perception on them due to, you know, people doing silly things like digging badgers and stuff, you know, things of that sort. So, but yeah, terriers are great, you know, they're very headstrong. You can find they can be a bit of a pain with other dogs, you know, but that's just their way. Especially if you've got things like Patterdale or Lakeland, they can be a bit funny with other dogs. But as you can see, this lad's a quiet lad with people. He gets on well with my other dogs. But there's many different terriers out there. You know, you've got the Jack Russell, you've got the Patterdale, you've got the Lakeland, you've got the Bedlington Terrier, you've got the Border Terrier, Sealyham Terrier, the Sporting Lucas Terrier, the Parson Russell, Plumber Terrier. You know, you've got a few to choose from, depending what you want. If you want a nice little baying terrier, you get a Russell or a Parson Russell. If you want something slightly more hardy, then a Lakeland or a Border, a Patterdale will be the way to go. There are some fantastic little Border Terriers out there. Although I personally not worked a Border before, but I've heard from quite a few different people, you know, that they can be slow starters, but once they do, they're fantastic workers. If you're into ratting, again, any of those types of terriers will do the job and more, you know. What you've got to remember is, guys, terriers are fantastic ratters, but they're not exclusively ratting dogs, you know. Ratting isn't a specific art or a hard job. Any dog can have a go at ratting, you know. I've seen some fantastic ratting dogs of all different breeds, from Chihuahuas to Yorkshire Terriers to Spaniels to Labradors, you know. These dogs excel at ratting more because they've got the tenacity, their small size, you know. But predominantly these dogs have been bred for earthwork, so dig into fox. So I would never recommend a terrier for a general mooch dog, for a general, you know, bushing dog, because they've always got that tendency to drop to ground when they find an earth, or, you know, things of that sort. It's in their DNA, it's in their nature. They can't help it. They smell something interesting below ground, they want to drop to ground. Terriers are always, I find, quite hard-mouthed, so they don't really make ideal ferreting dogs, although I have seen people use different types of terriers for ferreting before, but I find they've always been tended to be a bit hard-mouthed to the rabbits, and that's just their nature. You know, you always need to research these breeds before you want to work them, but if you're into your digging and your ratting, then terriers, I think, are the way to go. They're brilliant little dogs, hardy little dogs, you know, absolute hardy dogs. You want to be able to span them, so that means your fingers want to meet around the bottom of their chest and your thumbs want to meet at the top of their back. That's spanning a terrier. If you can do that with average size hands, then that dog will get to ground. You know, it doesn't matter about leg length or anything like that, because always remember, guys, legs will bend. It's the chest size. If they're too big in the chest, then they're going to struggle to get to ground. She's giving me a little wash on the face there. So yeah, like I say, this bitch stands about 10 inches to the top of her shoulder, but she's easily spannable. As you can see, guys, easily spannable, very easily spannable. This little bitch has been where she'll get where water won't, as they say. So yeah, this lad's a bit bigger. He's just about spannable, but you know, I'm hopefully we'll be testing him on some fox at a later date. But if not, I'm happy to just rat with him. He's a fine ratter. He's a nice lad. Now, with a working terrier, guys, you want to try and get a terrier that's docked, which means, you know, half dock terriers. Their tail's been removed, half dock, and you don't want a bob dock, which is a very short dock, which most vets won't do now anyway. You know, you can only dock a dog for working purposes. So if you hold a firearms or shotgun certificate, or you get a letter from a gamekeeper to say your litter's going to be working, most vets will dock them. So you want a good handhold on that tail, because that's handy for when you're digging with them. You can get a good handhold, a good grip. So you don't want a terrier that's too big in the chest. You want a nice head on them, small ears, nice ears that tuck in. So yes, terriers have been bred for years and years to have the attributes of a dog that can work to ground. As you can see, I can't easily span this lad. He's quite a big lad, you know, but he should just about squeeze into an earth. This lad, if you try and bush with him, he goes completely deaf, and he doesn't. He's off with the wind, you know. Once he gets a scent up his nose, all the training in the world, you know, couldn't stop that. So I work him within his limits, which is, you know, when I rat him, I have to long line him. But I don't mind that so much. He does the job that I want him to, and that's fine. Again, you know, type of dog is personal preference. Personally, I prefer a Russell. Unfortunately, nowadays it's getting harder and harder to find a good working line of Jack Russell. My personal opinion on that is, since you know, they've been very popular as pets, and now the Kennel Club have got their hands on them. My fears are that over the next, you know, 10, 20 years, it's going to be almost impossible. I think the most reliable terriers now really are Patternels or Lakelands. You know, they're not pedigree breeds. They're generally bred worker to worker. So that's the most reliable dog you're going to get. Yeah, Terriers are fantastic little dogs to keep. Small vermin dogs. They're tenacious. You know, they're loving dogs in their own way. You know, they can be a little bit highly strung, but as with any working dog, you know, they've had these attributes bred into them. It's not a fault of the dog, it's what we want out of them, you know. A terrier has to be highly strung and, you know, have a tenacious attitude, because they've had to work quarry that would, you know, fight for its life. You know, fox over the years, badgers, otters, they're all quarry with sharp teeth and sharp claws, you know. They're not going to take a terrier coming into their domain lightly, so a terrier has to be hardy and, you know, have that tenacity to take on that quarry. You know, they punch well above their weight, guys, and I love them. Hearts are lions. They punch above their weight. They're brilliant little dogs. You know, it's one of them things. I'm in love with terriers. I'll probably always keep a terrier over the years. You know, even if I don't work them, you know, work them to ground, I've actually slowed up with that now over the years since this little bitch has got a bit old. I've sort of stuck more to my ratting. I enjoy that. Brilliant day out with the terriers. You know, you can get the odd terrier that will be a jack of all trades, but it's very rare, I think. I think if you're really into your terrier work, you either want to dig to a terrier or just stick to ratting. They're no good for bushing. If you want a bushing dog, get a spaniel. You know, that's just my opinion. You know, I'm sure there's many fine bushing terriers out there, but I've not seen many that won't drop to ground when they get the chance. But yeah, you know, guys, this little bitch is getting old now. It's quite sad to see. You know, she's done well for me over the years, and yeah, it's slowing up. I mean, I'm going to try and plough as much work into the Lakeland Patterdale Boozer as I can, but as I say, he's not really my type of dog. I've always preferred these little Russells. I find them a little bit more. I like their work style more. I've never really been into hard dogs, but, you know, whilst I've got him, I'll work him, I'll give him a go. That's all you can do. You know, this little bitch isn't docked, she's full-tailed. I do prefer a terrier that's docked, but I've never had much trouble with her tail. You know, you'll only really get a lot of trouble when they're to ground, and they tend to wag their tail still, and it will wag against the top of the tunnel, you know, and they can scrape that raw, and, you know, when they're bushing, it can. But as I said before, you know, terriers aren't an ideal bushing dog, so it's never really, you know, a full tail has really been not an issue for me. I mean, as long as they got a mouthful of teeth and they can bay away, and that's all I've asked for, really. Yeah, like I say, if you want something that's more for bushing or rabbiting, you can actually get a leggy, a Bedlington Terrier. They're a little bit more biddable. I know a lot of people who use full beddies for rabbiting, and they're fine dogs. You can get the smaller Bedlingtons if you want to dig out and out digging dog. But generally speaking, you know, Terriers, I've always found they've not been much good for rabbiting. Either they've been hard-mouthed or they've not been good for with the ferrets. And that's just something that's bred into them. You know, they're not good with small animals. You know, Terriers are generally small game dogs. You know, they've been bred to take out small game, foxes, rats, you know, things of that sort. So anything small and furry is fair game to a terrier. And you know, I think you've got to work a dog to within their limits. You know, I would never have this lad round my ferrets. He absolutely can't stand them, so I don't work with them. If I'm ratting, I'll either smoke them or dig them out. And apart from that, you know, hopefully he'll do the job on foxes, which I'm sure he will. I think he'll be a bit of a hard lad on them, but that's just in his breed, you know, Lakeland Patterdale. So we'll see. So yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed this short video on my terriers and a little look at my terriers and a little talk on them. As I said before in many other videos, once this lockdown is over, I'll get out, I'll film a bit of ratting and stuff like that, and try and get you some good footage of them working. Might even be able to bring you a little fox digging video, but we'll see, guys. We'll see on that one, guys. So I hope you're all safe through this COVID-19 lockdown. I hope you're still getting out and about with your dogs and exercising them a bit. Feel free to like and subscribe my videos, guys. There will be more coming. As I say, it will just be talks for now, but once the COVID-19 lockdown is lifted, we'll be getting out and about. It'll be business as usual. So hope you have a good one, guys. Stay safe. Click like and subscribe. Cheers, guys. Have a good one. Thank you.